Good morning and welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I am Marcy Bodwin. I'm the Faith Formation Director here at Valley UU. And we're going to start this morning with our Time for All Ages, our story time. So if families want to take a minute, go get the kids, pull them up around your computer or your phone or whatever device you're using. And while we wait for that, I'm going to give you just a couple of quick announcements. First of all, I did send out the registration link for our fall online programming for children and youth. If you didn't receive that, now I sent it on the 18th. If you didn't receive it, my email address is up on the screen for you. It's faithform@vuu.org. Be sure to let me know and I will send you the link. Also, the music director's link is up because Katie wants you to know that if you're interested in assisting with the virtual online music, send her a quick note and let her know that you're interested in what way you're interested, and she'll see if she can get you involved. The other announcement for today is that if you stay on the worship service through the end, afterwards we will have time for breakout rooms. And today's thought-provoking question is, and we will make sure it's in the chat, what is it you can do this week to show solidarity for important causes? So welcome to VUU. It's time for our story time. And today I will be reading Under the Same Sky by Britta Teckentrup.
We live under the same sky in lands near and far. We live under the same sky in lands near and far. We live under the same sky wherever we are. We feel the same love in the cold ice and snow. We feel the same love where soft meadows grow. We play the same games where the hills touch the sky. We play the same games where the grass grows so high. We sing the same songs across the same seas. We sing the same songs caught on the breeze. We face the same storms where dark forest grows. We face the same storms where wild rivers flow. We dream the same dreams, whatever the weather. We dream the same dreams, and we dream them together.
I think we should have our welcome next.
Good morning. I want to give a thank you to Marcy and a welcome to you all. I am Rebecca Riggs, a long-term member here at VUU, and I will be leading our service this morning. Like you, I wish we could all be meeting together in person, but it is still nice to feel connected seeing your faces as you join us online this morning. We will be dividing you up into smaller breakout groups at the end of the service, so if you can stick around, you'll get to visit with a few people more directly, more personally. Thank you for joining us. My invocation this morning is titled Come, Come, Whoever You Are by Ian Rydell. Do you hear that voice calling you, calling us? That voice which calls us together here today. made holy by our gathering, our speaking, and even our silence. That voice that calls us to remember that we are not alone and that we are inextricably linked to all other life, woven in a holy tapestry. And just as we have been called here together today, we act as the voice, the heart, the hands of another call. The call to walk with the wanderers, sing and dance with the worshipers, proclaim the memory of those who have taken their leave. Wrap the despairing and the broken in the arms of love and community, and hold the hands of all of us who have broken our vows and call us back again and again to the covenant and the work of justice and steadfast faithfulness. For this, we gather here together today. So my friends, come, yet again come. Come, let us worship together and join our voices to the music that you'll hear. Please sing along if you're so moved. This is a round, so sing whatever part calls to you. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, whoever you are leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no caravan of despair. Ours is no
Join me in our opening words as we light the chalice. We kindle this flame, symbol of our faith, for the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of love which calls us to work for justice. Welcome to Valley Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Noelle Hyman and I'm your worship associate today. We want you to know that you are welcome here regardless of how you think, of what you believe, of who you love, or whatever your beautiful skin color is. Regardless of whether you show your live video or replace it with your name or picture, though we love it when we can see your live faces. I was teaching a chair yoga class last year, and we do a lot of movement in that class to take care of our joints. And I have the students make shapes with their hands for varying effects as we roll our wrists. So one day I told the class to make the kind of fist you should never make if you're going to punch someone with it. And I should warn you, this won't be the most reverent welcome you've ever heard. When everyone gave me a blank stare, I reminded them, you know how if you punch someone with your thumb tucked into your wrist, then you're going to break your thumb? And then I got more blank stares. And maybe you've experienced this. If you learned something at a very young age, you tend to assume that it's universal knowledge. My neighborhood from ages 4 to 13 was the kind of neighborhood where the standard discussion was how to punch someone and how not to. It was an exciting and adventurous place for me, but there were bullies at multiple ends and in between, and running into a threatening situation and fights was a normal part of life. I'd like to say that the first time I punched someone, it was in solidarity with the little girls who rode bikes in my cul-de-sac, because we had a bully named Guy Guy. It's the word guy, G-U-Y, doubled, Guy Guy. And maybe that reveals a little about the parents who named him, or maybe he had a specific association to his name that he needed to live up to. Guy Guy liked to knock down younger little girls on bikes, pushing them to the ground, take their bikes, and then ride around on them while taunting them. And then he did it to me. He was 1 year older than me, and I was just a tiny little thing at 5 years old, but apparently able to land a punch to his nose. I went home, and it wasn't long before there was a loud pounding on our front door. My dad opened the door, and it was Guy Guy's dad. And he was huge. My dad was on the smaller side, and he'd been bullied as a kid. So I stood slightly off to the side, half peeking at Guy Guy's dad and half behind the wall next to the doorway. And Guy Guy's dad said to my dad, "Your son gave my son a bloody nose." And my dad put his arm around my shoulder and he pulled me right into his side. And he stood with me in solidarity, facing the big guy straight on. And my dad said, "Actually, that was my daughter." Fists played a significant role in my childhood, and I've been interested in the use of the raised fist as a symbol for the Black Lives Movement and other movements. I found information about the raised clenched fist as a symbol, believe it or not, in Wikipedia and National Geographic articles. Wikipedia names solidarity as the meaning. And solidarity is the theme of our service today. The earliest use of the clenched fist found so far by the authors of the articles I read was in 1914 by Mother Earth magazine, as symbolical of the social revolution happening around the oppression of laborers in America. In this same year, Big Bill Haywood, a founding member of the Union Industrial Workers of the World, the IWW, spoke to strikers and preached working class solidarity across all races and trades. And lifting his hands, he said to the crowd, "Every finger by itself has no force. Now look," he said, closing his fist. "See that," he said, "that's the IWW," referring to the union. The raised fist was later used in a cartoon by the IWW in 1917. All the workers' hands unite here into a single mighty fist. In 1926, a German group called the Red Front Fighters, later rebranded as Antifa, patented the clenched fist as part of their union and salute in their pledge to fight off the fascists of the rising Nazi party. To Ernst Thälmann, leader of the Red Front Fighters, the fist was a pledge to protect the friend and fight off the enemy. There's this iconic photo taken by Dan Wynn in 1971, a joining of two powerful women, a gorgeous image of the intersectionality of feminism and Black rights. And here, the fist is used in a civil liberties poster, a feminist a feminist movement graphic, and even by librarians who are against digital rights management tools because they limit the use of copyrighted works. These are just a sampling. There's a surprisingly large history of the use of the raised clenched fist. Before I end, I want to clarify that despite depictions of violence in my personal story, I don't advocate for violence, especially now when many Black leaders are asking white allies to step back and behind, saying violence by white allies are harming their cause. Whenever possible, the clenched fist raised into the air in solidarity with others for a righteous cause is way better than the clenched fist in somebody's face. Let's raise our fist up to something higher than ourselves as we work together for something better. Every finger by itself has no force, but together in solidarity, there is power. May we stand in solidarity, as my dad did with me, with all those whose rights are oppressed by power, and to make big change for good.
Thank you. We set aside this time for our offering. You can text your donation or send it by mail to where you see on the screen. We understand that everyone cannot give financially during these difficult times, and that is okay. Please just let us know. May those who can give in love and in hope. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We as a community commit to ensure that the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. Thank you for your generosity. And now we have our time of centering. I invite you to pause for this moment of meditation, to listen to the music and find an inner calmness and inner strength. This is also the time to use the chat room to let others know of the joys and concerns and sorrows that are in our lives. This is one way of staying connected in this time of isolation. May we be aware of waking our senses to compassion for all who need our love. Please let the music and the images help you center yourself for these few moments. Wake now my senses. My first reading this morning is called Basketball Grace. The story was originally appeared in Regina Brett's column in the Cleveland newspaper. On the surface, this is the story of a basketball game and involves a dad and a son. The dad wanted his son to see the big Wadsworth High School senior varsity game. So they arrived at the gym early to make sure they got good seats. They sat in the bleachers and waited for the junior varsity game that was already underway to come to an end. Suddenly, with 1 minute left on the clock, that game came to a halt. Wadsworth was winning by 10 points when the Cloverleaf High School coach stopped the game. The crowd buzzed softly, wondering why he had called a timeout when there was no chance of their winning, when everyone was anxious for the next game, the real game, to begin. That's when the dad noticed the short, thin player sitting at the end of the bench wearing the green number 10 jersey for the Cloverleaf Colts. When the player rose from the bench, the dad noticed the boy's limp, the slight tilt of his head, and the way his eyes looked just slightly off, the scarred ear that had never finished growing in the womb. The dad didn't know that a shunt in the boy's head kept him alive, drained the water from his brain, and kept him from playing sports to the fullest. The boy couldn't afford to be hit in the head. Doctor's orders. The coach had planned to put Adam Cerny into the game, no matter how close the score. He knew how badly Adam wanted to play against the school's biggest rival. The dad and the boy in the bleachers watched as Adam caught a pass and launched a shot from well beyond the three-point line. He missed. But instead of pouncing all over the ball to charge down the court and rack up more points, the boys on the opposing team didn't move. They wanted Adam to have another chance. The clock ticked down. Adam shot and missed. 12 seconds. He missed again and again. 9 seconds. The Wadsworth team refused to take the ball. One player even motioned for Adam to come closer, but the boy declined. By now, everyone was standing and cheering for Adam. The people who knew him shouted his name. With 4 seconds left, Adam launched the ball. The buzzer split the air as the ball swished through the net. Fans from both teams stood and cheered and clapped. The Wadsworth players shook his hand and patted his back. The two referees on the gym floor applauded. The dad in the stands began to cry. When he looked up, his son, a child of 6, asked if the tears were because the Cloverleafs had still lost the game. The dad just shook his head, smiled at his son, and told him they were tears of joy. I don't know about you, but that is the world that I want to live in. Please let the special music continue this story.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to
Thank you so much for all the people that made that quartet possible. My second reading this morning is by Brooke Kruger in her book, The Suffragettes. This is from a little-known story of men who fought for the women's right to vote. The suffragettes took a back seat and showed what support looks like. On May 6th, 1911, under perfect blue skies, 10,000 spectators lined both sides of Fifth Avenue from the curb to the building line for the second annual New York Suffrage Day Parade. Somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 marchers strode in a stream of purple, green, and white from 57th Street to a giant rally in Union Square. Bicolored banners demarcated the groups by their worldly work as architects, typists, aviators, nurses, physicians, actresses, cooks, writers, chauffeurs, journalists, hairdressers, office workers, librarians, decorators, teachers, farmers, artist models, even pilots with steamboats painted on their banner. Women's work was the point. To draw broad attention for this spectacle, the women had help from a single troop of men in their midst, 89 in all by most accounts, dressed not in Scottish hilts of the bagpipers or smartly pressed uniforms of the bands, but in suits and ties and fedoras and the odd top hat. They marched 4 abreast in footsteps of the women under a banner of their own. These men were not random supporters, but representatives of a momentous yet subtly managed development in the suffrage movement's 7th decade. 18 months earlier, 150 men of means or influence or both had joined together under their own charter to become what their banner proclaimed them, the Men's League for Women's Suffrage. Since the end of 1909, they had been speaking, writing, editing or publishing, planning and lobbying New York's governor and legislators on behalf of the suffrage cause. They continued to do so until the vote was won. From a contemporary standpoint, this is remarkable to consider that 100 years ago, these prominent men not only gave their names to the cause of women's rights or called in an odd favor, but invested in the fight. They created and ran an organization expressly committed to that effort. Up until the point at which they joined, it had been seen as women's work for a marginal non-starter of a cause. From the beginning of their involvement, these men willingly acted on orders from and in tandem with the women who ran the greater state and national suffrage campaigns. Supporting each other, they swayed the course of history. Please join in as we sing to Running the Race Towards Justice and Equality in Solidarity. Guide My Feet. Sing with the video, it is an uplifting song.
Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. For I don't want to run this race in vain. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race. Hold my hand while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race. Stand by me while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain. Child, while I run this race, I'm your child. While I run this race, I'm your child. While I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race. Guide my feet while I run this race, for I don't want to run this race in vain.
I hope that was fun for you too. I know you would probably never guess that ever since I've been semi-retired, I have been going to a gym regularly. Not a big gym with an expensive membership, but a small one that is part of our HOA and is restricted to adults 55 and older. Before this, I would never have even considered a membership to one of the large fitness centers. Too many young people with abilities that made my meager attempts at conditioning almost laughable. And honestly, I would be too embarrassed. But for the last few years, well, at least up until the last couple months, I have been going regularly to a total body conditioning class at this small gym where I'm actually on the younger side of the people who are there. As part of this class, we lift weights. And one of the instructors is always trying to persuade me to lift heavier weights. She insists that I can do it, and I am satisfied to continue with my little 5-pounders. One day, she brought out 10-pound weights for me and practically put them in my hands and said, "Today, try it." Well, I could do it at first, but it didn't take many repetitions before my arms felt like overcooked spaghetti and the weights had a distinct wobble to them. She stepped over and said, "Do one more. I'll help." She reached out from behind me and helped me lift one more time. After finishing, I said thank you and also commented, probably with a slightly snarky attitude, on how I was right. I couldn't have done it on my own without her help. Her reply was, "Really? It was just 2 little fingers. I just put 2 little fingers under the weight. But you could do it because you thought I was helping more than I really was." Well, honestly, I still prefer the 5-pound weights. But the whole exchange made me rethink a few things, including how easy it is to sometimes help another person. Just 2 little fingers, lifting a minute amount of the total weight, but that being enough to make a difference. Listen to this passage from the Bible. For I was hungry, and you fed me. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you took me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Small things, a meal, a drink, some clothes, a little time visiting. These are not big things, but small things. Just 2 little fingers to lift the weight off of them. As a congregation, we're pretty good at stepping up to help each other when we need help. Help with small and large difficulties that life can deal out to us. Gestures of help. When I was hungry, you brought me food, or a casserole, or visits to the sick, or rides to the doctors, someone to help with the laundry or the grocery shopping for a new mom, a listening ear. Just 2 little fingers of help. Why is it that just 2 fingers can help so much? It was not much actual muscle power that my exercise instructor contributed to my lifting of the weights. I lifted the heavier weights, but she gave me the confidence to do it because I could see that she was trying to help me. It was the appearance of her help that gave me the confidence to muster the strength to lift the weights one more time. It was not her help so much as her solidarity. Well, solidarity might not quite be the right word. I like the word solidarity, but I recognize that it's often, if not usually, associated with the labor movement, as Noel told us earlier. Its roots are with the unions. Maybe I could use compassion, or empathy, or fellow feeling, or that word that Walt Whitman used, adhesion, the love of all for all. But actually, I like solidarity best. I have contemplated what this liberal religion of mine requires of me. I don't claim to have a final answer, but I believe the goal of any spiritual path should come down to changing ourselves and others by asking for a different ethical and moral approach, a different way of looking at life, with all its triumphs and tragedies. And this requires work on some essential virtues. My list to work on at the moment includes honest realism, simple kindness, gratitude, open-mindedness, service, and solidarity. Yes, solidarity. I define it as that positive feeling of seeing in another person one like yourself and emotionally moving to be on their side, to be of support, to be of help. It's more than openness. It is more than tolerance. Several years ago, we as a congregation put up a banner that said Black Lives Matter and put it out at the front of our property near the driveway entrance. It was vandalized and replaced, and again vandalized and replaced. Finally, after several cycles of that, we had a ceremony to dedicate the newest banner, which involved many in the community beyond just this congregation. We were on about our 4th or 5th banner by then. It too was vandalized. But finally, we changed the location, and our Black Lives banner now hangs outside the wall of the main sanctuary. At some point in all of this, it occurred to me, and maybe others, that this was getting a little ridiculous. Was it that important to publicly display this banner? And the answer is yes. What we as a congregation offered was a signal of solidarity. We are with you. A few years ago, Reverend Andy and his daughter Sasha did a service at VUU together. Sasha has chosen to express her gender as female, has let her hair grow longer, and has changed how she dresses. Together, Sasha and Andy spoke of this journey of transition and its impact on their lives. I can't speak for every one of you, but what I felt as I listened to their story was not simple openness, a feeling that, well, if that's what she wants to do, I certainly have no problem with it. No, I felt a deep rush of feeling and respect for Sasha, her parents, Reverend Andy and Heather, and her sister Josie. I wanted them to see my hands, our hands, trying to reach for that bar that they were now trying to lift, even if all I had to offer were 2 little fingers and not much muscle. Again, what we as a congregation had to give was the offer of solidarity. We're with you. It is so easy to forget that a little signal of solidarity or welcome can be such an important thing. There's a story that goes around churches. I'm not sure where it started or even where I first heard it. It's about a church, kind of like ours, open and light and inviting. One day as the service begins, a young man comes in alone. At this point, I think the story changes to fit the prejudices of the times. Probably when the story was first told, the young man was simply wearing short sleeves and no tie. And later he had long hair and a tie-dyed t-shirt. And later, tattoos and dreadlocks and an eyebrow piercing, or pants that hung down real low so you could see his boxer shorts. Or maybe he was wearing a skirt. But whatever, he comes down and sits on the floor in the very front of the sanctuary. And the congregation is waiting for somebody to do something about this. And then the oldest usher, the old white-haired guy who still always wears a tie to church, carefully makes his way down the aisle. He approaches the young man and then slowly and laboriously sits down next to him on the floor for the rest of the service. He gave him the signal of solidarity, the wordless welcome, the high sign of hospitality. The usher treated that young man not like everybody else, but welcomed him specifically as he was. I have come to believe that for many situations in life, it's not what you think, it's not what you feel, it's what you show that matters. To show solidarity. There's also a well-known story about fishing. Give a man a fish and he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish and he will eat forever, or at least until the river is overfished. The story is the basis for all sorts of discussions about social welfare and the perplexing problems of helping people who need help without creating dependencies, etc. I get it. I will never get stronger if my instructor did all the lifting. So she only helps a little bit. So my capacity and my strength will grow. But what is also really important is that she gave me confidence, not by the amount of help she gave, but by the fact that I could see her make the move to help me. Whether you help somebody in the short term or the long term, much of the value of the help offered is that you are communicating that you care enough about them to make the effort. And it's not just our willingness to help that matters. It's also our willingness to be seen helping that matters. It's our willingness to step up and help visibly. Our willingness to say our blessing out loud. Our willingness to go where the other one is and make them feel welcome, where they are, as they are, who they are. This is why it is important to march and carry our Valley UU banner each spring in the Pride Parade. This is why it's meaningful and important to hang a Black Lives Matter banner outside our building with ceremony. This is why we do the car caravan parade to show support for the police reforms as part of the Black Lives Matter. It may not be a simple task to make this world a more hospitable place for many, many more people. But getting started on that goal is not so difficult. A little sense of solidarity. Just 2 little fingers of help and a blessing said out loud. May it be so. Blessed be. I picked the hymn, Love Will Guide Us, as our closing song this morning, because I wanted us to sing out, especially on that second verse. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot sing before thousands, you can still give from deep within you. You can still change the world with your love. Just 2 little fingers. Please join in singing, Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Let us end together with our final words as we extinguish the chalice. Though we extinguish the chalice, our connection to each other and this community remains. May its light guide us this week as we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, and fill our worlds with compassion until we meet again.
The benediction this morning is my modified words from Maureen Killeran. No matter how unprepared or inadequate we may feel, we each have gifts that can make a difference in the world. In this coming week, may you do at least one thing to support those in need, to welcome the stranger, to celebrate what is worthy, to do the work of love. Each day, contribute 2 fingers of solidarity so we may all be a little more whole. Go in peace. Now, for those of you who need to sign out, we hope to see you again next week. For those who can stick around for a while, you will receive an invitation to join a breakout group. The question again that we're asking you to consider is that question from our benediction. What is it that you can do to show solidarity for important causes for those in need? Blessings to you all.